three situations, what each of them did was exactly the same, but because the underlying motivation and the state of mind was very different, you can see there's going to be much more difference in the power of that act. So, therefore, bodhicitta, any actions that stem from bodhicitta motivation is rooted in this compassion for the other sentient beings, and therefore, bodhicitta is a practice where the focus really is on cultivating a perspective that cherishes and respects and cherishes the welfare of other sentient beings. Therefore, in the prayer to Maitreya, to prayer to loving kindness, there is a line which says that that which blocks the passage to the path to the lower realms, and that which opens the gateway to the higher realms, and that which brings about the real attainment of freedom, liberation. I bow to bodhicitta, the awakening mind. Now, of course, when the person who is engaging in the bodhicitta practice does not cultivate bodhicitta because he wants to be saved from the lower realms. That's his not motivation. The primary motivation of cultivating bodhicitta is to bring about the welfare of all sentient beings on the basis of attaining full liberation of the Buddhahood. However, because the person is so committed to this ideal, the person, as a matter of fact, will avoid from engaging in actions that are harmful to other sentient beings, because the compassion is the underlying perspective and principle of this individual. So the person will naturally observe a very high, ethically sound way of life, will avoid engaging in actions that are harmful to others, will act compassionately towards others. So in this way, although what is aspired for is attainment of the full Buddhahood, but as a byproduct, the person is also going to gain freedom from birth in the lower realms and so on. So, and similarly, although the Bodhisattva practitioner does not seek nirvana for his or her own sake, but because the Bodhisattva practitioner avoids giving himself or herself to the power of the afflictions, the Bodhisattva practitioner also gains liberation from samsara. So these aspirations, the realization of aspirations comes as a byproduct of this single-pointed pursuit to bringing about the welfare of other sentient beings. Such is the power of bodhicitta. Therefore, any virtuous act that is sustained by the motivation of bodhicitta will have that power. So although it may be one and the same virtuous act, depending upon whether it is sustained or not by bodhicitta, has a great consequences. So, therefore, and furthermore, if we look at many of the actions that are harmful to other sentient beings, when we look at them, most of them often arise from those actions that we do, arise from some form of very strong clinging to an excessive self-cherishment. And of course, in general, having a concern for one's own well-being and cherishing one's own well-being, there is nothing wrong with it. It's a truly legitimate state of mind. And in fact, there is nothing wrong in seeking liberation for oneself. But where it becomes a dysfunctional and a source of problem, is when we go into an extreme to the point where we become totally oblivious to the consequences of our action towards others. We become totally oblivious and we disregard the welfare of other sentient beings. So therefore, if we look at many of the negative actions that we engage in, often they tend to stem from some kind of obsessive self-focus and a kind of a disregard for the welfare of other sentient beings. So bodhicitta, where the full focus is a cherishing of other sentient beings and working for their benefit and bringing about their welfare, and then this practice will also, as therefore, when this bodhicitta is combined with the realization of emptiness, then we have a real chance to gain total freedom and also attain a very enhanced and advanced state of mind where we have the antidotes against both of the twin, negative forces, the grasping at self-existence and excessive self-cherishing. So in the past, it is the combination of these two, grasping at an ego and also excessive self-cherishment, through their combined forces, it has often spelled our downfall. Now through the combination of the wisdom realizing emptiness and the bodhicitta, we will then have a powerful tool to combat, to counter the twin forces of self-cherishment and self-grasping, and in this way lead to a true freedom. So between these two, the wisdom of emptiness and the wisdom of emptiness and a perspective that cherishes others' welfare based on compassion, with relation to the latter, this is something that is relevant not just to the Buddhist practitioners. It is relevant to all practitioners of different, all of religious background, religious traditions, and also to non-believers as well, because ultimately all of us, whether we are believer or non-believer, whether we are Buddhist or not, or whether we are followers of this tradition or that tradition, our basic disposition is to aspire for happiness and to wish to overcome suffering. And if that is our fundamental reality, then adopting an altruistic perspective that has a regard for others' welfare and that relates to others in a compassionate manner, that is the highest spiritual principle that can be adopted by any person of any religious background. And this is also, when someone cultivates that kind of spiritual value, then there will be very little room for many of the mental toxins that generally tend to afflict us, such as excessive attachment or hatred towards others, or extreme competitiveness and jealousy and so on. So if your primary perspective towards others is that of compassion and caring for their welfare, then there will be no real room for these kind of afflictions, mental toxins to arise in you. And in this way, it ensures a true freedom in you, and freedom from fear, freedom from anxiety, and freedom from depression or being lonely or being totally kind of losing, being discouraged and so on. So and if we have this kind of mental quality, then in a sense we truly open ourselves to lasting happiness. So from strength to strength and from joy to joy, the individual will be able to move on once you have that kind of foundational standpoint in your heart. Of course, there is the other factor, which is the wisdom of emptiness aspect. And here, of course, this is an internal Buddhist business. This is not relevant to other practitioners of other religious traditions. In fact, I often tell my Christian brothers who, in the context of interreligious discussion, sometimes, when they show a kind of an eagerness to go deeper into the meaning of emptiness, occasionally I warn them and tell them, well, you don't need to get into this. This is not your business. This is the Buddhist business.
公亚里啊，孙子们用不下的，朋友用啥子话？用啥的？就用超级些个，但是那边就啥呢？他的强肉生活边这个孙子们用开始吃啥？是吧？但这样的，等人用不这个没现的，那个俺也查到的这个血糖，这人用不下他去。 이제 뭐도 좀 말대. 다 순수면 좀 찾아줘. 자, 이제 이미 되잖아요. 창조 생산의 공부에는 시호직 그 태도에